So here we are back in Harlem at Club St. Clair's. That's right, we are back with another episode of the Godfather of Harlem. And this one is called If We Must Die. And here we are at the club. We got Mr. G, Marshall Grant playing the sax, and everybody's having a good time. Of course, there's a mix of the crowd, black and white, and Bumpy shaking hands with the men and the people in the community. And Marshall Grant is doing his thing. Everybody's just really bigging up Bumpy and congratulating him on the club. And we see right there, that's right, Frank Lucas is right by Bumpy's side. And he's making arrangements, and Bumpy's telling him what to do. And he's telling him to make sure to do this and that to convince this guy to make sure he's going to be all right. This guy's making a little trouble at the table, but Frank is going to take care of it. Here we are with Pettigrew and Chance, and these guys looking jealous, boy. And Pettigrew, he's definitely like, look at this guy right here. Now he's Bumpy's right-hand man. He just doesn't trust Frank after everything he went through. And Chance is listening to him and everything, and he's like, man, this guy could turn around and take out Bumpy in any given time. And Chance is just like, look, man, this guy put his life on the line to get Bumpy's wife's jewelry. And he's like, so what, man? Still, we can't trust him. He just doesn't trust him. Hey, man, this guy put his life on the line, so I'm going to trust him for right now. So here we are with Bumpy, and Bumpy is talking to Mr. G. Mr. G just finished his set, and Mr. G is just like, look, I got a gift for you. He's like, nah, you don't need to give me a gift. And what is it? It is a book of poems that Bumpy gave his sister long ago. He wanted his sister to read up on poetry. And Bumpy reads this poem about if we must die. And he's so touched by this gift because Bumpy gave this gift to his sister a long time ago. He's like, you got me. And he says, cheers to you. It's like, nah, cheers to you. So we see the respect and the love that Mr. G and Bumpy have for each other. So we're outside, and Frank and Bumpy, they're about to leave, and this guy walks up. Of course, Frank turns around. Do I know you? Pulls out the strap. He says, no, I'm just here to serve Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson, you have just been served. And these are documents to go against Bumpy to take St. Clair's, Club St. Clair's. So he gets on the phone with his lawyers, of course, in the morning. And they're like, he's trying to find out what's going on with the paperwork. And he tells Mamie, look, they're trying to take over St. Clair's, and we can lose everything if we lose Club St. Clair's because they put up everything as far as the collateral, right? So Bumpy says, you know what, I'm going to go talk to this guy. She's like, be careful. He's like, I'm going to put on my best charm. So then we see some brothers, and they're walking into what looks like a Army recruiter's office. And what they're doing is they are examining these guys, these brothers who want to go to the Army. They're being drafted, and they don't want to dodge the draft, and they're being asked questions. Do you have any affiliation with people who want to dodge the draft? And all of a sudden, who do we see walking the door with picket signs and everything? We see the Black Panthers talking about, hell no, we won't go. Hell no, we won't go. Of course, you see Elise and Sadiq, and they're putting their fist up, and the Army's trying to just stop them and hold them back. And they're like, hell no, we won't go. We ain't going to Vietnam to fight somebody else's war. And this young man right here, he looks like Muhammad Ali, but he's looking like, yo, what's going on? So Straub sits down with Bumpy, and he's like, what's this going on? Why are you doing this? He's like, look, man, with real estate, it's all about image and everything, and it looks like you got the best of me. So now I'm trying to get the best of you. And you can either fight it and lose, or you can take the deal. And he gives him some paperwork. He's like, what's this? He's like, this is an affidavit saying that you forced Mr. Marshall to give you the property. And it's signed by Marshall. And he looks at it and he's like, Marshall Grant would never sign something like this. And he threw it back at him. He says, well, you got a choice. Either you take the deal or you go back to the gutter where you belong. And of course, Bumpy's like, F you. He's like, well, guess the choice is back to the gutter. So these guys, they're going to fight it out in court, and we'll see what happens. So we got Delia, and we have Jerome. And Jerome is Teddy's brother. That's Teddy's mother there. She's trying to convince him not to go to Army. he's trying to live a legacy and everything because his grandfather, they went to the war. He was in World War II, and he just feels like he's obligated to do something. She keeps telling him, like, you're going to end up like Teddy, right here in the ground. You know, so many other sons who went away and they died, and she doesn't want that for Jerome. So they're trying to convince Jerome not to go. So here we go with Joe Colombo, and Joe Colombo was writing his I Have a Dream speech in Italian style. And the guy's like, man, you should start off with, you know, Italians have the best food. And Joe Colombo's like, what are you, hungry? What are you talking about, right? Like, what are you talking about? Here comes Frank and Bumpy, like, I need to talk to you. And Joe Colombo's like, that's fine. Everybody leave, you know, including you, Frank. Frank is like, look, I don't take no orders from you. And Bumpy's like, look, Frank is with me and he stayed. Right? He's like, all right. So it's like, why you guys, you gonna shake me down for the St. Clairs? Like, you get paid, the whole family gets paid. Like, what is the problem? Well, you're really not me. You're really business, man. At the end of the day, Guy Straub, he has something out for you. And he really wants to make you look bad. So it's best to just take the deal. And he's like, nah, I'm not taking that deal. He's like, well, I'm going to fight it out in court. And he has big lawyers. And Bumpy's like, I have big lawyers too. He's like, well, you're going to lose, right? It's all business. And Frank is like, yeah, it's all business, huh? Columbo's like, you got to watch this guy, right? I see you found your tribe. And Bumpy's like, look, man, you better watch your back, man. You and Straub better watch your back with all of this and that, right? Again, we taking it from a legal standpoint, not a gangster standpoint. So on paper, it's going to be hard for Bumpy to come this, but he's going to fight. And that's what it comes down to, right? So here we are with Delia, and she went to go talk to, of course, Elise and Mamie for help. She's like, look, I got to convince him not to go. You know, these kids, they go away and they die. And of course, Elise is like, yeah, you know, no black man should go fight the white man's war. You Vietcong ain't never call us nothing like that and never treat us the way they do in America. So Mamie has an idea to get somebody who can convince your son not to go. And if he can't convince him to go, then we don't know who's going to convince him. So Joe Colombo sits down with your girl Stella. And he's talking about the dynamics of Chin and the family and the Gigante family. And she's like, listen, what do you want? I know you're not here to talk about that. She's like, well, you think we are meant to be together? Me and you should together, be my wife. And she's like, what? So here we are with Bumpy, and Bumpy sitting down and he's questioning Marshall, right? Marshall Grant. He's like, listen, did you sign this? And he's like, looks at it and everything else like that. He's like, yeah, signed it. That's my signature. He said, why would you do that to me? He's like, oh, I didn't know what I was signing. And he was like, this is crazy. It's hurting us. He's like, I didn't even know what I was signing. They put a strap to my head and told me I better sign this or they're going to take my life. He's like, well, why don't you just come to me and tell me what happened? He said, I talk, then they're going to take my life. You know, he was forced to sign that affidavit. He wasn't willingly signing that. So he's like, look, I'll do anything to straighten this out, to make this right. So Bumpy's like, look, I'll let you know when we need you, if we need any help and everything else like that. But yeah, Bumpy is pissed off at Marshall Grant because he just was like, yo, you should have came to me sooner with this whole thing. I got to get hit from the back. And of course, Frank is looking on just like, yo, let me know what to do. So back to Stella and Joe Colombo. And Joe Colombo, again, he is on some, yeah, I'm a king and things about to change in Harlem. It's about to shift. And she's like, oh, is this a warning? He's like, nah, I'm a king that needs his queen. You should be together. And she's like, the funny thing is, I'm not in love with you. I'm not in love with you, Joe. He's like, it's not about love, it's about power. It's going to be a major shift. You know what happens when your father dies? You may leave you a little something, but eventually you're going to be broke and you're going to be on Long Island and you're going to be by yourself. You're going to be all dried up. You want that? And she's like, you know, you should read this book about a king who pretty much got himself killed and got his partner killed. He's like, oh, yeah, I never read it. I need to go to the library. He's like, if anything, just consider my offer, all right? It's a proposal. Just consider it. So now we got a whole bunch of food at the Harlem diner. And then we got Jerome and Delia, and he's like, who am I going to meet? Like, what's going on? So we see Mamie walk through the door, and then we see this guy walk in the door. Who is it supposed to be? Muhammad Ali. And everybody's going crazy. Oh, it's the champ. I can't believe the champ is here, right? So they walking and smiling and, the fist to the folks. And Delia and Jerome are like, I can't believe it's Muhammad Ali. And Delia's like, I can't believe my eyes either. So Muhammad Ali is like, is that him over there, Jerome? She's like, yeah. She's like, try to convince him. He's like, best regards to Bumpy. So he goes over. He's like, how you doing, ma'am? Muhammad Ali. And look at Jerome all shocked and everything. Like, I can't believe it. So they're sitting down and Muhammad Ali's like, look, man, tell me again why you want to go to war. He's like, I just feel like I need to fight for something, Like, I need to fight for a cause. And he's like, look, ain't no Vietnam ever called me a ninja. And you fighting a war that's not yours. You fighting somebody else's war. If you're going to fight a war right here in America against the system, he's like, well, I want to be brave. You're a fighter, I walked away from millions of dollars. That doesn't take courage. He's like, yeah, it does, but you're a boxer. He's like, yeah, but you're a fighter as well. Fight for a worthy cause, something that is going to take care of your people, your mama, and everybody else in the community. That cause instead of fighting for a cause that has nothing to do with you at all. So Muhammad is definitely, speaking the truth to him. Fight against the system and not fight against a war that's not yours. And he's like, okay, I hear you, man, but can I get an autograph, right? And Jerome, he just being a kid. So Bumpy goes to the accountant and he's asking for advice. And she says, you don't have a legal leg to stand on. And, unfortunately, you have nothing backing you. So, they can wipe you out of everything. And he's like, yeah, so what do you think I should do? And then she tells a story about how her parents owned a grocery store and how the Cross Bronx Highway was built. And it pretty much destroyed the entire community. And people like Straub is the type of guy that destroyed communities and families. And she was talking about how she loved it and how every woman on the block was her mother. But once that Cross Bronx Expressway was built, it destroyed every community, including the grocery store that her parents owned. So she's like, personally, I would put Straub in the dirt. I would send him to hell. But you got to do what's best for you. At the end of the day, even if you sell St. Clair's, you're going to be fine because you're going to make money out of the deal. He's like, I get it. So again, Deli is trying to convince Jerome not to go. He's like, yeah, I spoke to Muhammad Ali and all this and that, but I got to make the best decision for me. And, I'm an adult now. And she's just like, are you serious? Like, Muhammad ain't convinced you at this point? He's like, nah, mama, I got to fight for something. Like I got to prove myself. My daddy did and granddaddy did. And she's just trying to figure out how to convince him not to go to war and not to go to the army. So Straub walks out of his office, right? Looking at the time or whatever the case is. He's walking to his car. And guess who rolls up on him? Yeah, Pettigrew and Chance roll up on him. It's like, yeah, we got a message from Bumpy. We want you to sign this affidavit saying that you forced Marshall Grant to sign a paper that he had no idea about. It's like, to my lawyer, like, nah, you're going to sign this right now. All of a sudden, pow, pow, pow. Shots ring off. And who is it? Yeah, it's Colombo's boys trying to shoot down Pettigrew and Chance, right? They're trying to protect them and they popping off and all of this and that. And they shooting back and trying to protect themselves. Straub, he jumps in the car like a little weasel. But they shooting back and forth and they're trying to protect themselves. And yeah, they closing in on them. It's about 4 guys and they're closing in on them and they're paid to protect Straub. And, Chance is like, I'm out. Pettigrew's like, I'm out too. They out of, whatever. And it's like, yo, what we gonna do? I mean, is this gonna be the end of Pettigrew and Chance, right? And these guys are walking up on them real slow. Man, this is gonna be the end, right? And then all of a sudden, pow, Junie comes out of nowhere, blasting, blah, come on, let's go. And he saves Pettigrew and Chance. Boy, man, if it wasn't for Junie, man, they would have been done. It would have been a goner. Here comes Straub with his weasel ass out. He's like, oh, man, this is crazy, right? So we're back with Delia. And Delia, again, is looking for help. And she rolls up into the Italian spot where Pino is looking and they're playing pool. And he's like, what the heck is she doing here? And here comes Stella like, yeah, to see Stella Gigante. Okay, hey, how you doing, Delia? What's going on? Happy to see her. She's like, come on, let's talk. So she is now going to Stella for help to either convince or to do something to Jerome to get him to not go. And she's like, yeah, this is making me sick. You told me if I needed help to come see you. And you're like my last straw. Like, what should I do? And she's like, well, force him to go anywhere or stay if he wants to go. And she's like, well, how about you kidnap him? She's like, I don't know about that. I don't know. She's like, look, I need your help. There's nothing else and no one else I can go to. And, Stella's just like, look, we're going to do what we got to do. We're going to help you out. I'll talk to the boys, see if we can kidnap him and take him to Canada. This way he won't be drafted into the Army, right? So she's going to try to help out the best way she can. So Bumpy's on the phone. He's talking to his lawyers, and he's like, yeah, you get Marshall Grant to do something, right? So he's talking and talking, and Chance and Pettigrew, they're just like, yo, don't you think Bumpy's not making the right decisions after that heart attack? Pettigrew is real, negative. He's he's realistic, too. But, Chance is like, nah, I don't think he making bad decisions, man. Don't ever say that, man. So he's like, yeah, we're going to talk to Marshall Grant and get him to, confess and say that he was forced into the whole situation. And that's going to win the case. Yeah. And Pettigrew's like, well, what if it doesn't work? He's like, well, it's going to work. It's going to work. So Stella's like, look, this is what I want you guys to do, to kidnap Jerome, take him to Canada. And your boy Pino's just like, yo, man, that's not what we're here for. We got bigger things to take care of, taking care of this Negro. Like, what's going on with you? She's like, well, I used to date her son, and, now her youngest son wants to go to the Army, and, I feel obligated, and I kind of feel responsible that Teddy, her son, was taken out. So not only do, I'll do this, but I owe her too, and you guys are going to do it. And Pino's like, you know what? I'm not doing nothing. Me and the fellas, we're going to stay right here and do what we got to do for this family, and you can do whatever the F you want to do. But we're not going to Canada. We're not taking them up there. We're going to be right here, and that's what's going down. And Pino was all up in her face like, yeah, what's happening? All right, you could do whatever the F you want to do. And Stella's just like, looking at him like, yeah, okay, I'm going to remember this. You talking to me like this? Okay. So you already know she's smart about it. She'll spin the block on him. So Delia and Stella roll up on the Black Panther. And your boy Sadiq is like, who the hell are you, and why you got this white lady out here? It's like, to see Elise. You want to talk to Elise. That's what we're doing here. So Elise comes over. She's like, I know you. Yeah, I know you. Of course, Stella's like, hey, you know me. We need to talk. Can we talk for a second? Okay, cool. They're talking about how, they're trying to get her son to not go to the Army. It's like, we got draft dodgers in here and the whole nine. It's like, nah, he wants to go. So we can't really convince him not to go if he wants to go, Well, how about you kidnap him, right? And, Phoenix calls like, nah, we don't do that gangster, so that's not our tactic, Stella's like, look, sometimes gangster is the only way to go. You already know she a G. You already know she comes from a G family. And they're like, oh. She's like, yeah, at least you know about that, right? And Elise just smiles like, yeah, So here we go, Jerome. He works at the grocery store, whatever. He's putting out, the apples. Like, yeah, how many peaches do I'm looking for the peaches. How many peaches do I need, for what? It's like for an 8-hour trip, right? So Deacon's like, yeah, for an 8-hour trip, I need some peaches. And then here comes the other guy. Yeah, you need some more stuff, Jerome. He's like, how do you know my name? And then Elise rolls up. He's like, Elise, what are you doing here? Like, what's going on? I came to send you a message. What's the message? The message is from your mom, and it's goodbye. It's like when they snatch him up and they put him in the trunk of the car, boy. And he's like, what is going on? Help. What's going on? What are you doing? Elise, why are you doing this? Throw him in the trunk. He's like, Elise, stop. And they close the trunk on him, and then they speed off, right? So obviously they're going to take him to Canada, kidnap him and take him to Canada. Now, your boy Bumpy and Frank, they go to see Marshall Grant, right, to get him to, and do whatever. And then they walk in and see an unfortunate occurrence where Marshall Grant is in the bathtub, and it looks like he slit his own wrist, right? And they got the blade on the ground, and he's dripping out. And, man, it's bad. Frank, of course, is like, man, I'm sorry for your friend, man, but this not a good look. right? Of course, Bumpy's real sad about that. Your man, Marshall Grant, slumped over. Crazy, right? So here we are at the cemetery. I wonder why we're at the cemetery. Maybe it's a funeral? Nah, this is where they take Jerome. And Delia brings his bag. He's like, look, you got enough money to get there. You got enough money to get, to live. And you got some clothes. And you're going to Canada, whether you like it or not. Losing you. I'm willing to give you up. He's like, why are you doing this? I do want to go. She's like, look, I'm going to give you up to Canada. You'll be safe and out of harm's way. And it's like, yeah, what are you fighting for? What do you want to fight for? Elise jumps in. What are you fighting for? He remembers, Muhammad Ali saying you need to fight for a worthy cause for your people. Take care of your mama. And she's just talking to him and saying, man, you know what? You need to fight for a good cause. You might as well join the Black Panthers if you want to fight, want to do something for a good cause. She's like, well, that's going to put him even in more danger. And she's like, well, at least he's going to be fighting for a cause for the community, and he will be in Harlem. So Jerome just standing there kind of thinking and reminiscing on what Muhammad Ali said and how, it's about people that's being oppressed and he needs to fight for that, while Elise is talking and trying to convince him to join the Black Panthers because he needs a worthy cause. He can go to Canada, but he's going to come right back. And still, he's going to feel that feeling where he needs to do something. He says he feels suffocated being in Harlem and he wants to get out just so he can make a difference, just so he can, do something worthy. And doing something worthy definitely is getting down with the Black Panthers. So, Elise is looking at Delia like, yo, what are you going to allow him to do? And he says, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to not join the army. If I could join the Black Panthers. He's like, anybody got a lighter? And Sadiq gives him a lighter and he lights up his draft card. And that's it. He's not going and clapping for him. He's going to join the Black Panthers and fight for the cause, for the community, to help the community. Meanwhile, back at Bumpy's apartment, we see Bumpy. He is crying, his eyes out. And Mamie walks in with some groceries. She's like, what's wrong? What's going on, baby? And he's like, I should have never did this. It was a dangerous thing, a crazy thing. And now a man has lost his life. It's gone. And Mamie's like, oh my God, I can't believe this. That you're going through this. She's going to be there as a loving wife. But this is a real rough time for Bumpy because he has just lost the closest thing to his sister. And, definitely going to be a good wife and be supportive, but she's going to keep it real with him. He's like, yeah, I'm going to give them everything that they want. To St. Clair, that's fine. At least I could save my family. And Mamie's just like, look, man, honest with you, for what it's worth, like, I'm sick and tired of this anyway. Do what you got to do, Bumpy. Do what you got to do. And he is real upset, about the whole situation. So here we are. We're finally at the table with Colombo, Straub, and Bumpy. And they are there to sign off St. Clair's and pretty much give it the property. And, these guys are going back and forth talking about nothing and give a can of world because Straub feels like he's winning at this point. And Bumpy's like, listen, can we get to the business at hand? I'm not here for the chit chat. Let's just get this over with right now. And, okay, bring over the paperwork. Straub looking all arrogant and looking like he's winning the game, winning the whatever it is. He's like, a man just lost his life over this stuff. He's talking about Marshall Grant. He's like, yeah, I'm sorry about that. He looks like he offed himself. He's like, look, whoever did it, they're going to pay. Whoever did it is going to pay. Bumpy's not playing with that. He's making a promise, and he's going to keep his promise, for real. So he's like, look, let's get it over with. Right? So they give him the paperwork. Bumpy's reading it over because he does read contracts, avid reader. And he's like, nah, give me the money first, right? So they give him the money, and it's like, okay, checks it out, make sure all the money's there. It's like, yeah. It's like, all right, we're waiting on you. It's on you now. Looking it over. He's checking out this contract, checking out this affidavit, whatever the case is, to release the property to Straub and partners. Stella goes back to her apartment, but the door is cracked open. She goes in, takes out her little 22, and she walks in thinking that somebody's in the apartment. But what is it? It's some roses right at the four-way there, and she pulls out the card and says, yeah, think about my offer, honey. You know, time's running out, things about to change. And this is from Colombo, of course, you know, trying to lock her in because things are about to change right now. So we're looking at this contract, and man, this is crazy. This is going to be a shift in everything. And Straub's looking like, yeah, sign or you're going to be in the gutter, right? Columbo's like, yeah, what you going to do, man? We sitting, we waiting for you. So Bumpy goes through it. He reads through it, make sure, you know, good. Again, he does read contracts. So that's what he does to make sure everything's on the up and up. And he's looking around, and he eventually signs this off, puts his signature on it. And yeah, it's pretty much a wrap, man. St. Clair's is going to be Straub's. That property is going to be Straub's. And this is crazy. Straub is just smiling from ear to ear with his arrogant self. And man, it's just pretty bad day. He looks at it, he's like, everything looks good. And the guy looks at it, and Straub looks at it. He's like, yeah, everything's good. And then boom, Colombo pops Straub in the head. It's like, what the heck? Of course, Bumpy jumps up like, yo, what are you doing? What is this? It's like, hey, this is business, huh? Well, guys, let me take this off your hands, right? So they take the money. Bumpy's like, yo, that's my money. He's like, not anymore. He's like, what? It's like, yeah. He said, hey, listen, you know, this is mine, so stop by anytime. You know, business right here, huh? All right, so now you can go back to doing what you do best with Doogie in Harlem, right? Because you can't do anything else. It's like, yeah, best regards. Come by. Come on by St. Clair's. Yeah, yeah. Drinks on me. Drinks on me. And it's like, wow, man. He's like, hey, Dom, make sure you get that contract. They take the contract and they get out of there. Of course, the fellas are looking at Bumpy like, what the heck just happened? And Bumpy's looking like, man, this dude right here. You know, can't trust Straub and you can't trust Colombo. This is a crazy moment in history where he lost the St. Clair to Joe Colombo, and Joe Colombo is running and calling the shots. What will Bumpy do next? We shall see in the next episode of The Godfather of Harlem.